with every program of affirmative action or any kind of program to try to ameliorate some of the issues within the African American community or poor minorities, Black and brown people in general, people have, there seems to be a backlash. I'm wondering, for those that have not read your book and don't know where your thinking is on this, it seems to be important to explain to people who don't think that they have lived with privilege, where some of the privilege come from, like in redlining and housing and some of those. I think that would be important to share so that they can share it.
Sure. Well, let me tell you that I know that the term white privilege has been a trigger term for some people, meaning that if you grew up as a white person in our society, maybe you grew up in a low income family, or maybe you grew up in a difficult circumstance because of your family arrangements, whatever it might be, you might say, I am not a privileged person. I didn't have it easy. I've struggled. I've had to work hard to achieve the things that I have achieved. And it's hard sometimes for someone who has that point of view to recognize that privilege is not about, did you have a silver spoon in your mouth when you were born? The term refers to the benefits that come from simply being white. The benefit of the doubt is, I think, the biggest privilege. You know, the benefit of the doubt when you walk into the store, people don't assume you're going to steal something. They're not following you around. You're not being racially profiled. The benefit of the doubt in terms of walking into a hospital and being confident that people are going to respond to your symptoms and give you the adequate treatment, as opposed to what even the American Medical Association has pointed out as systemic bias in the treatment, particularly of Black people, in terms of, you know, pain medication and treatments when somebody's in the middle of a stroke or whatever. There's documented evidence, data, that shows that the treatments are not always equitable in that way. But I have recently read a book in which the author's name is Nolan Cabrera, and the title of the book is White Guys on Campus. And in that book, he says, you know, the term that he's been using is not white privilege, but white immunity. And that white immunity is a term that he finds that his white male students can better identify with. And in some ways, I think it is a better term because it speaks to the fact that whiteness makes you immune to certain kinds of experiences. Whiteness means you're not going to be pulled over while driving simply because you're white. It means you're immune to the kind of police violence that we see so often being inflicted on Black people in particular. Though also indigenous communities, I want to say, are also subject to similar kinds of violence in the places where, you know, there's a significant indigenous population. What we do know is that that immunity means you're likely to live longer. That immunity means that you're going to have greater access to employment opportunities. It means you're immune to the kind of discrimination that interfere with access to opportunity that African Americans have. We see this now in the COVID-19 relief efforts. How many Black businesses have been able to access, Black-owned businesses, have been able to access the PPP money that small businesses have been getting? The data shows that they have been very much less likely to receive those relief funds, as an example.